Hey guys, it's me, EODGamerZ here. Let's talk about the best teams for Harumasa, a free character that's coming to us in version 1.4 Zenless Zone 0. Thank you, Hoyoverse, for giving us free characters. Please give us more. He is, although free, is not really a straightforward character to talk about because his kit has a lot going on. Long story short, a TLDR that I want to share with you is his additional ability is the one that determines how flexible he is. He scales or he procs it with Anomaly characters as well as stun characters. So a little bit unusual because usually most attack characters will be like same element or like support in the same roster or same section even. He doesn't even care about his section 6 members. That's how Giga Chat he is as a worker, I guess. But in this video, we're going to be sharing you about his team compositions. He is very, very versatile in terms of team comps, similar to the character like Miyabi, who is a hybrid. But Miyabi, who has it more in the kit, Harumasa is specifically mostly on crit, but we'll talk about both his team comps. But let's not waste any time already, right? Let's jump in straight away with the first one, Electric Crit team compositions. So he's gonna be your attack DPS. So any of you Anton mains out there, you trade one Husbando for another Husbando, or perhaps you don't even have Anton build and you are looking to cover your electric. Perhaps you don't have Yanagi at all, or even if you do have Yanagi, you're like, I don't need another electric DPS. Don't worry, my guys. You can put them both on the same team. They work really well together as well. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But Harumasa's electric crit team is going to be very, very standardized. You're going to be focusing on the typical attack, stun, support combination. The support matters a lot here in terms of like the stun category. Both of them actually are important because you need to proc his additional ability. Nowadays, you have so many options. For the stun category, his best in slot is going to be Ting Yi, who gives him a lot of damage multipliers when she stuns the target. With a full combo, your stun damage multiplier increases. Procs additional ability for Harumasa as well, so very, very fantastic. For those of you who don't have the resources or didn't get Ting Yi, don't worry, Anbi Demara does it very well as well. She's also a stun, she's also electric. Otherwise, you can really pick up like most stun and just like slap them in. It's not super critical, but Ting Yi is definitely like his best in slot. For the pair slot, however, it's going to be a little bit more restrictive. My recommendation, of course, is going with a character like Rina. Harumasa generally can be a very short on-field character with very, very good burst windows, which means you can easily switch between the short M0 uptime on Rina and Harumasa's kit. So back and forth between both of them, which is really, really nice. At the same time, he also does quite well for longer field time if he really, really wanted to as well. So this is the electric crit team that I will probably recommend most people start off first for those of you who do not want like anomaly complexity and stuff like that, and going to be very, very easy to run for attack DPS. Some other options you can consider in the pair slot here in the support section, of course, is characters like Lucy. You can consider characters like Nicole. All these units work really well too. And if you really wanted to like force out more electric characters, you can run like Seth and stuff like that, which doesn't really hurt, but not too much benefit. So that is for the electric crit, which is very, very traditional, quite straightforward approach, simple to get. The one that is a little bit trickier is Electric Anomaly. Now this is where, as you can see, you have Yanagi and Grace both coming in. It might seem a bit weird at times. Why are you loading up so much on shock? Do you really need that much shock in a mono electric team? Harumasa actually benefits from when there is Anomaly being proc. So for example, when shock is proc, he gets his quiver stacks as well, which is what he exactly wants. So having an Anomaly character of the same element really, really helps him out a lot. And I hope Hoyoverse does this more for future characters, because that way your Anomaly characters can work very well together with the attack characters. So maybe this is like a sign going forward. You will have an attack and Anomaly in the same team rather than always just our template attack support stun, right, which is very, very plain vanilla. This one is very exciting and I like the way this is going, and Harumasa is probably one of the first characters that is inching towards this aspect as well. So for the Anomaly slot, because you are trying to proc Anomaly for his ability, and yet at the same time both of these characters are working really, really fluidly with him as well, who don't take up so much field time like Grace, or even can choose not to like Yanagi. The last slot is of course a bit flexible. I think characters like Seth is going to be great here, who helps you bump up the electric a bit more, although not very necessary because with the Anomaly character in the second slot and your attack main DPS also of the same element, you don't really need Seth. So Seth is like slightly lower priority. At the same time, he does provide shielding, Anomaly proficiency for your Anomaly character. A character like Caesar is going to work well too, and in fact it's much more favored because she's of a different element. Her shield is very chunky, she has very low fill time, giving you the option to focus on your other 2 slots, which I think is quite nice as well. Apart from that, of course, running Ting Yi doesn't hurt. Running other stun characters is also quite decent too in this slot. You can even run, for example, a character like Rena in the last slot if you want to run like a mono electric team compositions in Anomaly is great because Rena also buffs the electric duration. She increases it as well, and a lot of other electric buffing. She's probably going to be like best in slot for mono electric teams, and she is the thing that or Harumasa is the thing that Rena was waiting for. So very fantastic. Rena stonks rising, my guys. But yeah, that is the electric teams. We're talking about shock. Not very shocking anymore, but let's go into some other stuff, which is your Anomaly alternatives. Now, this is for people who want to build him outside of electric Anomaly. Maybe you didn't pull for Yanagi, you didn't get lucky to get Grace, because that's probably one of the main things why you are focusing on. For any of you who don't have electric coverage, you want to know how you can use Harumasa right away, right, in some nice team compositions. There are 2 other characters right now in the game that is probably going to be decent with him, and that will be the likes of Bernice, as well as Piper is also okay in terms of the alternatives other than Grace as well as Yanaki. The reason why, and just a quick disclaimer before I go in more and explaining why these 2 characters aren't on the list, Jane Doe and Miyabi do want a little bit more fill time, and they don't have too much synergy together with another attack character, for example like Harumasa. Whereas these 2 other characters here, they either provide a differing element, they are not too expensive, very easily accessible, for example like Piper, compared to like another limited character altogether like Jane Doe. Bernice, who takes up very little fill time, not too much of the star of the show mentality, and yet offers another attribute, so you can potentially proc like disorder in the team comps to help amp your damage as well. That is why these 2 are much more favored compared to the likes of Miyabi as well as Jane Doe. Hey, if you really wanted to and you want to like play your section 7 teams, nothing is stopping you, but I'm just saying that this team is going to be the better team to run in terms of how they work together. So for the pivot slot, here you're going to really focus on anything that is buffing your Anomaly DPS, because you're really running like Anomaly alternatives, either buffing Anomaly or contributing to electric, which means the weakest link here is actually going to be the electric part, because Harumasa is not as good as an applier of element compared to like Anomaly characters who generally has a lot of Anomaly mastery in their overall kit. In this case, I think characters like Seth work really well. You can go with even Ting Yi, electric characters in the last slot, like these 3 over here, which allows you not only a lot of stun potential on the enemy, because all of these 3 do want to build a little bit of impact percentage because their stun, or even Seth is decent at the job as well. This helps you not only apply more electric to help you get that anomaly, electric shock anomaly, at the same time you also stun the enemies to help do a lot more damage in burst window strings as well. So probably my recommendations for an alternatives, but of course at the same time you can always run Caesar in this slot as a decent alternative, and again Rena also works really fine, especially since he is a Harumasa, you can work quite good. And if you're playing Piper, Lucy is always an option as well. The typical combo of a Lucy, Piper, and anyone else would probably be quite nice too. That is for the Anomaly alternatives. Now, I always have one section here for Husbando lovers. You guys have waited so long for Lighter. Now you get your second one, and he's free, of course. So what are some team compositions? Because he scales with stun, he wants to play his stun. All Anomaly characters are waifu right now, so you can't go the angle. To proc his additional ability, you have to play the Husbandos of either Lighter, or perhaps you want to look in another category. I guess Seth is like also considered, I guess, Seth, but then you won't proc his additional ability already. So you can look at like Seth in this slot here if you wanted to fully maximize the ability to proc and stuff like that. You can go with like Seth in this slot with like Lighter, or Lycan in the last slot, maybe like Ben somewhere in if you don't have. We have very, very little Husbandos at this point. However, I think you're going to need to up your Husbando game. Maybe the first limited support is going to be a S rank male Husbando, but this is probably a team that I would probably run really in place of like Anton being like swapped out. Maybe Anton got power creep in the Husbando category, I guess. Last but not least, of course, I always promise this kind of videos will have a team composition for everyone, and this is what this section is all about. New player teams. Players who do not have too many S ranks and are very new in the game. Maybe you just downloaded the game because of Miyabi, free character, so you're trying it out. I assume that you don't have too many characters. Play Miyabi in the first half, and then like For example, Harumasa in the second half, switch them around as you want. So I'm going to try to recommend team compositions that Miyabi maybe doesn't use as well, so it can help you plan your team compositions ahead. Now, best of all is Anbi Damara comes free. Anbi Damara doesn't really want to hug Miyabi, so it's great that Anbi Damara is decent together with your character like Harumasa. So one team composition here already that Miyabi doesn't really hug or cling onto, and you are able to proc Harumasa's additional ability, Anbi Damara's additional ability herself. And another character that Miyabi doesn't really care too much on is actually Nicole, who has a little bit of a shorter rotation, which Harumasa actually mirrors a little bit too. He can play into like a burst DPS kind of role, very similar to the likes of Zhu Yuan, and in this way you are able to proc all of their additional abilities very, very nicely. So this, you'll find some success early on, and Miyabi doesn't touch these characters at all, so I would recommend you consider this team composition. But of course, I understand some of you are Miyabi skippers, you don't care too much about Miyabi. In that case, I think Lucy offers a lot more longer term value. She fits into more team compositions, she allows for a longer rotation as well. Eventually, if you want to get more characters, you can substitute out and stuff like that. I think Lucy is great. You should probably consider building Lucy instead. But of course, Lucy is really a little bit more contested in 1.4 for both of the characters that are releasing at the same time. But anyways, if you are wondering about your second half right now, check out our Miyabi team compositions. Otherwise, we'll have our Harumasa build guides and stuff like that on the channel as well, and mechanics as well, because it's very confusing. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and see you in the next video.